So welcome to your first success session with the Blue Water Middle College. Right now, this is the people that are currently watching this live are on the Zoom version of this success session. So I kind of just wanted, while people are kind of looking at this reflection and filling out their responses, to talk a little bit about how all of this stuff will work. So success sessions while you're in the middle college are a requirement, and your class overall has done an amazing job of showing up. We had over 50 people at the live session on Friday, or the in-person session, and we have like 40 something people in here right now. So again, if you joined late and didn't hear me say this, if you only have your first name listed on your video, if you could, whenever you're coming to the success sessions, just make it your full first and last name. That's how I check you off as having attended. And so success sessions, for each one that we have, you'll have an in-person option on a Friday, usually Friday afternoon. And then a Zoom session. I usually do them on Tuesday nights. The following week, just, I don't know, it gives me Monday to not have to think about it for a second. And then I record this Zoom version of it. And then if you can't make it to one of the live sessions, then you need to watch the Zoom and get the information that way. So the idea is that this is where we're giving you all of the information to be successful in college, in transferring on to four-year schools, if that's your plan. And hopefully a little bit of like some life stuff. Definitely navigating SE4. You've learned a lot of that in your seminar class, but this is where we give you all that information. And so it is up to you to take that information in, take notes, work on that material, do the stuff that we teach you how to do. And then we're always also here to help. So a lot of this, during the COVID years, we stopped making this required or mandatory. And so people stopped coming and people were in my office in their 13th year in tears often because they had made some wrong decisions. They didn't follow our directions. They maybe had never watched one of these videos, or they didn't value this information. And so kudos to you for showing up either Friday or tonight here on the Zoom, or watching this recording after the fact. So this first thing, the reflection, is just a Google form that we want you just to kind of like think through how it went. Hopefully everybody is aware of what their grades were. And basically you have your first semester under the belt. So did it go well, or was it a challenge? I'm going to talk about kind of how the grades went overall for your group and for middle college kids in general. But it is up to you to kind of know, like, are you happy with your grade? And if you're not, we'll talk a lot about ways to improve moving forward. Or if it went well, great start, and just keep up the good work. But this reflection is just kind of walking you through, like, what resources and recommendations did you actually try this semester? And we'll kind of touch back on this in a second. So that was in the chat. I'll also be sending it in the email follow-up. And this reflection is basically one piece of the homework for people that are watching this after the fact and need to make it up with homework. Okay, so this is your first success session. We're reflecting on your first semester of college. We'll talk a little bit about some news and updates, how the first semester went. And then the big thing is talking a little bit about the SAT, how it's going to work, and then showing you some study resources that are available. And I apologize if I seem to get confused. It's because a couple people joined and I'm just marking them off as attending. All right, so this is a pretty packed presentation, but just to get you started, some updates. We have talked about this in orientation and in seminar, but I know I had a few, and I think all of us did have a couple people after the drop and add period reach out and say, I need to change my class. And my least favorite emails to get are the ones that are on Saturday of that first week of the semester that are like, this isn't going well. I need to switch to in-person, or I'm in person, I need to switch online. Transportation changed. I don't like the instructor. I looked at the syllabus and this is going to be really hard. The first week there was a lot of work, and unfortunately the reality is that you kind of have to suck it up and deal with it at this point. So the college or SE4's policy, the drop and add period is only just the first week of class, and it's not a full week. It's just through that first Friday. So when I get those emails on the Saturday, I'm always like, "Ooh, it's going to be a rough one." But it is totally very possible to improve. Even if things went horribly these first few weeks, you can definitely recover and even get an A in a lot of cases. So unfortunately, no changes can be made at this point. So you're going to have to adapt, dig in, ask for help, talk to one of us, see us right away. We have through the years had people be like, okay, well, you won't let me drop right now. I'm just going to stop going. And that would be a bad idea, because we don't have to allow you to drop that class. We can say you made no point of talking to us, and you're going to have to stick with whatever grade you earn. So it's not okay to stop trying or to stop attending. It's very, very early in, and we can help you salvage whatever has happened, no matter how bad it is. Even if you have 0 points as of this point in the semester, you can still recover and pass. Totally left turn, but enrollment for the new class has begun. So you might remember a year ago that you were going to maybe that information meeting at your high school and hearing Mr. Ruiz and Mrs. Barr talk about how this would all work, or Mrs. Barr and I were in the classrooms and kind of talked about it. And then you had your individual meeting and talked to one of us. And we are doing that now for next year's class. So if you have any friends, family, classmates that have questions, feel free to just give them our information and they can reach out directly to us. Or you can say, hey, my friend has a question. Can I just give you her email or number? We will reach out. But hopefully this experience is going well and you have good things to say. But it's also okay to be like, oh, well, hey, it's a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be, but I'm surviving. It's going to be okay. I'm adjusting. And it's okay to spread the true word of how you feel about it. Hopefully that's a good thing. It's not just maybe sour grapes, but I think from what I've experienced with most of you, it seems like most people are having a pretty positive experience. So again, just point them to us if they have questions and spread the good word. Just a reminder, so we have all kinds of stuff going on and have for the last few weeks. I think so far, this is your first full week that is possible since the new year. I think all of the high schools have closed for cold days, snow days. You've already kind of experienced some examples of sometimes your high school closes, but the college does not. And that's pretty uncommon for them to close on like the cold days where the wind chill is really low, because they look at it like you're an adult, you're not standing out at a bus stop that we're responsible for operating. You're getting a ride, you're driving a car, you can put on a hat, you can put on a scarf. If you don't have those things, we have them here on campus, and you just gotta be an adult and go to class. And unfortunately, that is a downside of being an adult. But they also, on the other hand, your instructors are going to be very understanding if you live on a dirt road that just turns completely to ice every time it snows, and it's just not possible for you to safely get to campus. The main thing with all of this stuff, and we've talked about it probably a lot in your seminar classes, is that just communicate with your instructor or ask us for help if you don't know what to do. But unfortunately, if you're sick or if you can't get to school, either your ride cancels on you or your parents are like, you're not taking the car, it's totally icy and I don't feel comfortable with it. Whatever the case, you still have to do your work and keep up with your instructor. So it's not just my parents call in and I get a couple days to make that up. Things are still due and you need to reach out to your instructor. And that is similar for breaks that are going to come up this semester. So SE4 does not have midwinter break. So I think it's like mid-February that you're off from your high school on a Friday and a Monday. Most of you, I don't think anybody really has a Friday class. There's very few that are offered at SE4. But if you have a Monday class that weekend, that's still going to be going on. So I would really encourage you that if it's possible, attend that class, because things might come up where you do get sick or you do have to miss for an away game or stuff comes up. And if you miss just because you're like, well, I don't have high school, I don't feel like going, like that's not a good reason to miss. So again, really try to attend every class that you're able, and then communicate with your instructor for the ones that you're not. So same for spring break, they're 2 different weeks. So spring break at SE4 is March 4th through 8th. And then spring break at the high schools are March 25th through 29th. That totally stinks that it's 2 different weeks that you're off. So when you're off at SE4, you still have to go to high school. When you're off at high school, you still have to go to SE4. That does stink. It's just a couple years of your life, 3 years of your life while you're here, that you kind of have to work around that. Once you get to college, you'll have spring break when everybody does, or if you move on to a 4-year school. That being said, if you and your family have a trip planned, contact us. We can help you kind of craft the email or kind of some talking points of how to bring this up to your instructor. I always encourage people that probably at this point in your life, you don't maybe have a lot of control over when the vacations are going to happen. So it would be okay to say, you know I'm an adult and I'm in a college class, but I'm also still only 17. My parents plan this trip. I don't really have a choice. I have to go. And they'll help you figure out what to do. Sorry, there's going to be some moments where I'm going to have to take water breaks. Hold, please. So if that were to happen, most of the time your instructor is going to be pretty understanding. They'll probably allow you to make it up before you go. It won't be like, oh, sure, we'll figure it out when you get back. Although I have heard some saying stuff like that. But you just need to connect with your instructor and find out what to do. There are some cases, and they are not required to allow you to make up work if you miss a class. Like if there's a test that week and there's no makeups, that'll be something you're going to have to figure out. But we can help you figure it out with your instructor. So reach out if you have questions. It's also, you're kind of now in your second semester. So we do recommend that students meet with an SE4 academic advisor once a year. And so if you haven't already, you might want to reach out. These success sessions and what we did in seminar, I always kind of phrase it like we teach you how to make your plan, right? We taught you about the different degrees at SE4, kind of helped you figure out which one's appropriate for what you want to do. We help you create your plan. When you meet with me, we can look at transferability. Like I and the other people in the office can do most of what an SE4 advisor can do. But the way I look at it is we can help you make the plan. SE4 advisors can double check that for us and make sure that we're planning correctly. So if you see them once a year and you've already kind of made your plan on your own or with me, you can just show them what we made and they're going to say, wow, that's awesome. You're all good. And then you have that peace of mind. If you have some ideas already about where you want to transfer to, we can work on that. Your SE4 advisor can help you with that, but we can also triple check it and reach out to advisors at the 4-year schools even now and say, this is kind of what I'm thinking of taking. Is this going to work? And they'll give us an idea of like, yep, that's a good track, or like, oh, here's another couple of classes that might work. Or sometimes they'll have things that used to work for a certain degree, but it doesn't anymore. So that's how we can triple check that stuff. And then this is how you would reach out and make an appointment with them to meet an SE4 advisor. Another thing you're going to be working on at your home high schools is Zello, used to be called Career Cruising. That's a requirement for you to complete stuff there. And so sometimes when things are required, people go through the motions and just kind of check through those things that you have to do without really giving it thoughtful attention. And I would encourage you to give it thoughtful attention because it's actually one of the best tools for seeing everything in one place. It helps you come up with your career plan, what your career plan requires for education, what colleges offer it, what you would actually major in at that college. And it is a great place to see all of that in one spot. So One of the downsides that I've always said about Blue Water Middle College is that it pressures you to feel like you have to have it all figured out right now, and you do not. So this is more helping you figure it out. But this information is helpful because the sooner you can have some ideas, the more you can really narrow down your focus at the college and make sure you're taking things that not only are going to finish your degree here, your associate degree at SC4, but will also be really helpful and work towards your bachelor's degree if you're going to go on to a 4-year school. Okay, so the grades for first semester, this is probably not super, I don't know if this is relevant or interesting to you, but we've been showing everybody for years. But this is the grade breakdown of everyone in the middle college. So 11th, 12th, 13th year students, every single class it was taken, like how many A's, how many A minuses, and so on. And then this is just you guys. So just for our first year students, you as a class. And so this is awesome. Sorry. You can see there's a whole lot of A's and B's when we look at these numbers of grades being a C or better, which is kind of that magic break point of a C or better is what transfers to 4-year schools. It's what keeps your GPA above a 2.0 if you're averaging those C or better in every class. It's kind of the first benchmark to shoot for, right? 83.9% of the grades being that is amazing. That is way, way better than the average student at SC4, like the averages that they have there. And then you guys as a class did even better. So you got 85% of the classes that your class took were a C or better, which is awesome. And then it goes up to a 92% or better as passing. So sometimes I get so fixated on how things are going to transfer and shooting for that C so that it will transfer that people get confused, or maybe I confuse them, that they think that a D is failing. It's not failing. A D minus or higher is a passing grade. It gets you the credit. It lets you move on to the next class if it's a prerequisite. It's a good thing. It's maybe not the ideal, but it's a good positive thing to pass the class and get credit. We can always figure out what to do later. If it's a class you know you need, you can retake it. Or, if it's something that you don't need, maybe just move on and try to keep building your GPA up. But those are all good numbers. That's a big improvement from the last few years. So we are seeing that people are getting more comfortable back at the college as things are more back to normal. This is, again, similar breakdown of just a big number of A's, B's, and C's. Overall, all middle college students, and in particular, you guys as a class are outperforming your classmates in the 12th and 13th year. Now, to be fair to them, you're taking introductory classes, and some of them are taking the hardest classes that FC4 offers, so that probably adjusted a little bit, but overall, that's really, really good. We're really proud of the start you all have had on average. If it's going well for you, you may see that you will be honored on the SC4 President's List. This is awarded every semester, but you have to be taking 6 or more credit hours for the semester in order to be eligible. So probably very few of you did. There's a few people that took multiple classes if you're not going to one of the partner high schools, but most people just took the one college class, so you only earned like 3 or 4 credits this semester. This current semester you're in, though, you're taking 2 classes, so you probably are taking at least 6 or more credit hours. So if you get a 3.0 or higher, then you're just automatically on the President's List, which is like Dean's List or Principal's List or Honorable, whatever they call it at your high school. This is a great thing to throw on your resume later. Like, I was on the SC4 President's List 5 out of 5 semesters that I was eligible. That's a great thing to say later on. If you continue this as you complete more credits, having a 3.0 or higher GPA, you'll be eligible or invited to join the Phi Theta Kappa. It's an honor society for college. So it's similar to like NHS or National Honor Society, but for colleges. You'd be invited to join. You'll get, I think, a letter in the mail and an email. And you might think it's a scam because it's going to ask you to pay money to join. I forget exactly how much the cost is. It's not super cheap. I feel like it's kind of in the $70 to $100 range. So sometimes that's not an easy decision depending on where you're needing to spend your money. But it is a good investment because it pays off almost automatically in scholarships once you transfer onto a 4-year school. There's almost every college has a Phi Theta Kappa scholarship that if you're in it, you're a member, you just automatically get that $1,000 or whatever that scholarship is at the 4-year school. So if you have questions about this stuff in later years, let us know. All of that good stuff, there's always still room for improvement until we see 0% E's and 0% W's, which would be very, very highly unlikely. But you can see the numbers are much better. And we were typically before COVID hovering around 5% every semester for both E's and W's. So we're lower than that now overall. Some of these W's are not very indicative. There were people that maybe started and decided to go back to their high school. But you can see your E's are much lower than the overall and definitely a lot lower than that 5% that it used to be. So again, well done. But for those of you that ended up in that category, you're probably not super happy about it. And if you did end up in that category, then Mr. Stewart has reached out to you. But the idea here is no one has to fail or withdraw, ask for help early, and just kind of adjust. And this is where a lot of times people that ended up in this boat, the learning curve of being at the college and needing to ask for help and not having kind of your high school teacher saying, hey, you haven't turned stuff in or what's going on. It definitely puts more of the responsibility on you at this point in college. So if you earned an E or a W, most likely you ended up placed on academic warning with a GPA below a 2.0. If that happened, just kind of the overall process or policy for this, SC4 is required to do this. All colleges that accept financial aid money have to follow this policy. It's a federal mandate that's basically to protect college students so that colleges don't just continue to let you fail semester after semester and take your money or rack up your student loan debt. So basically the idea is that if you drop below a 2.0, you're placed on warning so that you just get a little bit more help and resources and you have that semester to bring it back up over the 2.0. If you do that, you carry on, you just keep trying to improve. If you don't, you're suspended from taking college classes for the following semester. If you are on warning, Mr. Stewart has, I think, reached out to everybody and you know, is trying to set up those initial meetings, but you would meet with him through the semester every week or every couple of weeks and just kind of talk through how things are going. He is really good about helping people figure out like what went wrong. Sometimes it's just like, I just had no idea what was going on. The content was really confusing. Or sometimes it's like, I was in an online class. I didn't even know we had these quizzes from an access code. I never knew how to even get there. So I got zeros on all my quizzes until like halfway through the semester when I figured that out. Or Canvas was confusing, or my teacher was confusing, whatever it was. A lot of times it's organizational stuff. Mr. Stewart, I heard him today meeting with people and bringing up the story that he literally had somebody fail a class because the kid wasn't checking his email, where there was a big assignment that the student turned in. It wasn't exactly in the format that the teacher wanted. The teacher emailed him and said, hey, if you can just fix it and re-upload it by tomorrow, you're all good. The content of it was great. You just didn't follow the format. And the student didn't see his email and failed because that was a big assignment. So he can help you get organized. If you're honest with him, he's really, really good about helping you figure out how to adapt. And another big thing for everyone is just not missing classes, using the tutoring and support centers. And again, I know we say that. I say it like 20,000 times every time I see you. It is a pain in the butt if you're on warning and don't get yourself off of warning. There's all these future consequences that I'm not going to harp on too much because there are so few of you that are in that boat, and the ones that are going to be talking to Mr. Stewart about this quite a bit. But this is just kind of stuff to know for the sake of trying to avoid it in the future. Online classes, I just wanted to point out, the overall grades are lower. The average grades are lower for online classes, not dramatically, but they are. So with that data, it shows us that they're harder, right? For a variety of reasons. Like I said, sometimes it's just understanding Canvas and knowing where to go and how to figure out what it is you need to do. Like you might completely understand the material, but if you're missing quizzes or you're not getting stuff turned in on time, or you don't know where to look, then you're missing free points basically, because you know the stuff and you'd be able to do it. Sorry. So that's something we can very easily help with. A few of the students that I know that are on academic warning now, we're in this boat, didn't ask for a few weeks into it. We can sit down and look at Canvas, and almost every time I do that with a student, it takes 10 minutes and they're like, oh, cool. Okay, I get it now. And that's a really easy, low impact thing that you can do that's going to make a huge impact on your grade for the semester. So ask for the help. Overall, most people did very well in their online classes, though. Something else to keep in mind, and just in general, college in general, like at pretty much anywhere, they're expecting you for every credit hour that you're taking, that you're spending at least 2 hours a week outside of class. So for example, if you're in a 3-credit class, that means you're in class 3 hours a week. And so that would be like your Tuesday, Thursday, 1 to 2:15. That's about 3 hours a week. They then think you're spending 6 hours a week outside of class to do all the other stuff, reading the chapters they assign, doing the actual homework assignments, studying for tests, all those things that on average, they are thinking 6 hours a week should do it. If you are in an online class, you're not in a seat for 3 hours a week. So they're going to give you the material that's going to make up for that. They're going to give you 3 hours per week of material for you to do. So if you're in a 3-credit online class, they're expecting you to spend 9 hours a week on that. So that's where you can see that college and your scheduling is one thing, but balancing it all and actually building the time into your schedule is another whole piece of it. Now, you might all be looking at this and rolling your eyes like, I spent nowhere near that and I got an A and it was totally fine. And you should. You're in introductory classes right now, but this is really going to become more appropriate and more relevant to your schedule as you get further into your time at the middle college and at SE4, where you are taking more challenging classes. But hopefully they're not asking for that much of your time right now. But if things aren't going well, try to shoot for that. And then if you're like, I am spending 9-10 hours a week on this 3-credit class and I still am struggling, that's where you probably need some help to talk to the instructor, talk to a tutor, talk to us. So again, communicate, ask for help, always saying that. But the whole idea is that it is learning to succeed in college is a process, right? That's what seminar was meant to help support you with. It is very, very common for students to struggle in their first semester, their first year. This is a big adaptation that you've made, going from just being at the high school, staying after school for whatever activities you do, going home, having the evening to yourselves, to now having a lot more to balance and figure out and schedule into your week. But students do figure it out. And once you do, everything does kind of improve. And you might have, a challenging semester later on where it feels like everything's hitting at the same time. And again, that's what we're here to help with. I should keep a tally of how many times we say that in a success session. Okay, so the other piece of why we're here today is to talk about the SAT and hopefully really drill into your brains that the more time you prepare is time well spent. So 11th grade is a big year for everybody, for you guys all in middle college, and for all of your classmates that are just, being regular Port Huron Northern or Algonac students or whatever school you go to. The Michigan Merit Exam is, the SAT is a piece of that, and it's where the state is basically giving a test to make sure everybody's making progress. So your schools are judged on this. I would implore you that if you care about that, please don't. You want to do your best on this because it's helpful to you in your life and what you want to do and your goals. And so that's why we're mainly going to talk about the SAT. The work keys and the M step, that stuff you'll just do. It's not super relevant to your lives right now. Sometimes work keys are used in job application processes, depending on the industry. If that's the case, maybe your work key scores will be good enough and you won't have to deal with it. But most of the time, you won't know that for several years until you're getting into that industry. You'll probably want to retake it at that time anyway. But by studying for the SAT, you are studying for these other things. So that's why the SAT is kind of the main things that we focus on. So if you are going to one of the partner high schools, Algonac, Capac, Memphis, Yale, Port Huron High, or Port Huron Northern, you're going to do all of that testing at your home high school, and they will explain to you when and where that's going to happen. As you can see, this is all going to be offered on varying dates. So it used to be that the SAT was offered paper and pencil. Everybody was in the cafeteria or the gym or whatever, and they had tables set up, and you took the test right in there on paper, and it was all on one day. That is changing this year as the SAT is going digital. So it sounds like from the in-person session on Friday, everyone's kind of aware of this. Your high schools have been talking to you about that, and that's wonderful. Those of you that don't attend the partner high schools might be hearing this for the first time. If you do not attend the partner high school and you're like a homeschool or unaffiliated student with us, you will be taking it with us at SE4, and Mr. Ruiz will be sharing those details as we set the date and get that set up. But everyone is required to take the SAT. And so again, this is where we really want you to think of it as this is not just like the standard, what the NWEA or the M step stuff you've done through the year where you just kind of show up and take it. This is actually very relevant to your very near future. And so we really want you to take it seriously and prepare. So the higher your score on your SAT, the more choice you have about colleges that are going to accept you. The higher score you have on the SAT, the more scholarship money you're going to be eligible for. If you have a high GPA, this really is important because having the higher, you kind of have to have a score that sort of matches that when it comes to scholarship money. But an SAT score can help supplement if your GPA is a little below what a college is looking for you to have. This can kind of help boost that up. Your SAT scores can be used for placement at SE4 for English, so that can be helpful later on. And then this may not be your last high stakes test that you take. Depending on the career and industry you're going into, there's a lot that still require testing. As an educator, we all had to take certification tests. If you're going into healthcare, pretty much you always have to, and a whole bunch of other professions do require that. So another example of just kind of getting used to studying for these things. But a big reason why this is relevant is that when you apply to four-year schools at in your 13th year, you are applying as a freshman, and Blue Water Middle College is your high school. So they are going to look at your high school GPA, which is your Blue Water Middle College GPA, and includes both your high school and your college classes. And then they're also going to look at your SAT score. So your admissions does depend in large part on your SAT score. And again, they could kind of help boost the other up if one's better than the other. But hopefully you want to get yours to kind of match. So this is an example. This is the most recent chart kind of Michigan colleges have come up with to just kind of look at the average GPAs and the average SAT scores that are required for each school. You see Hillsdale and University of Michigan at the top. I'm going to use this as an example, and especially our current 13th year students or your classmates that are 12th graders at your high schools. They got the decisions for University of Michigan over the weekend and are hopefully happy, but some are disappointed. And some people I know applied that were very well below kind of the average GPA. And that's fine, but then you better have that SAT to boost it, right? Or you might be a little below the averages on both fronts. Well, then you better write a killer essay that explains why they need you, right? And they do want to know why they need you. You all bring something unique to a college campus, right? They just need to know your story. So those are all pieces of it, but it's just, I just wanted to have you see this to kind of give you some examples of what you should be shooting for your GPAs and your SAT scores. And again, I don't want this to discourage you, because there are people that get in below the average on these numbers because they have something awesome to offer, but shooting to get as close to these as you can is really going to give you a lot less stress, basically. So sometimes people are still thinking everywhere is test optional. They're not requiring SAT scores anymore. And that's not really true everywhere. So some colleges are saying, yeah, we're never going to actually require the SAT again. And this was a good question that you just asked. I'm going to get to in 1 second. So colleges, basically, probably what you're aware of, but just to give you a little history, during COVID, there was not a safe way for people to gather and take the SAT. So they stopped requiring SAT scores, and just we're looking at GPAs. And so even the Ivy Leagues, the highly selective schools like Michigan or Northwestern, schools like that are saying, we want to look at the whole student. They want to find out what kind of things you're interested in. What do you do with your time? Are you working a part-time job because you have to? And it's like, I'm working at McDonald's because it's the best pay I can find and they work with my schedule. That's fine. Explain that. Explain why you have financial need or what's going on in your life. They want to see the whole picture. Your GPA and your SAT score are part of that. Some colleges were like, we don't feel the SAT is accurate and doesn't give a good picture of what a kid or a student is potential, or what your potential is in college, what you're capable of, is where I was trying to get. And so they're probably never going to require it again, but a lot of them are back to it already. Most schools, even the big schools, the highly selective schools, are saying, even if we're test optional, send it. And if it helps you, it helps you. And if it doesn't, we're just not going to look at it. We'll just kind of toss it out. Which is different from how things used to be. People used to be very nervous about sending their SAT score places because there was this mindset that if they saw you did badly on it, they would definitely not admit you. But it's not really that way. Like if you're where they want with GPA and your work and everything you're doing, your extracurriculars, all that stuff, an SAT score usually isn't going to be what negates that. So mainly it can only help you. It does also help in scholarship, and I'll talk about that in a second. So the question that I got is a really good one. Say you did bad on an SAT, how many times can you retake it? I think you can actually take it like infinite a number of times. It's just a matter of paying for it over and over. And so I would almost kind of caution you to look at this first one as like, you get a free look at it when you take the test at your high school or at the middle college at SE4. You can retake it, and I would say you'd probably want to. I kind of will bug you through the years because I think everybody should take it a second time. Statistically, people do better the second time on average. Most people, not everybody. I have seen people do better on their first one, but they will look at your highest score. So if you retake it and you do worse, they'll just look at your first score. Some schools also do like a super score, where if you've taken it twice, they'll take your highest math, your highest English, your highest overall, and they'll build that together, put it all together for you. So that can be really helpful. Yeah. So the SAT does help for scholarships. Most of the schools have these things called merit scholarships. Sometimes they're called freshman scholarships, where it's based on a combination of your SAT and your GPA. This is an old example from Oakland. I think this has been changed, but I liked the visual of the chart. So basically this is saying, like, depending on your GPA and your SAT score, So if you have a 3.4 GPA, you're down here in this line. And so then depending on what you get on the SAT, if you got a 1030, you're gonna get the orange is a 1500, right? Where if you just bump that up 100 points to an 1130, now you're gonna get 2500. So it can make a huge difference, just really a couple questions on the SAT. And so that's why it's really important to do your best and try to get your highest score. Excuse me. Okay, so most scholarship money does come from that because it's fairly guaranteed based on what you've done, your GPA and your SAT score. So sometimes people are like, well, I have to work, and it is a tough balance, and I totally appreciate that. All of us in the middle college were students that had to work in high school while we were in college. And it is a hard thing to balance, of trying to figure out what's an appropriate hours a week of work versus hours you need to set aside for studying versus that adding in the SAT practice too. Let's see, the top score for the SAT is a 1600, and each question is worth a different amount of points, I think. So it's not like each question is worth 100 points or something like that. They actually weight them oddly, and that's a mystery to the world, kind of how they grade it. But what we're going to see, and what I'm going to show you, are some practice resources that will show you kind of your SAT scores. Sorry, I just realized I forgot Mrs. Barr is there. She's probably answering some of this stuff too. So while we're on this, I'm going to keep kind of answering these questions. So if you have questions about it, pop it in there. Will colleges look at our partner high school GPA as well, or just the Blue Water Middle College GPA? Great question. They won't. They're going to look at the Blue Water Middle College GPA, but they will see, like, for example, that you have all A's in your high school classes. And if that's not matched on your college classes, like say you're getting some B's at the college, they understand the difference, right? Like they know that your college classes or your AP classes or IB classes are a little bit more challenging. They'll look and see, okay, this was honors geometry versus regular geometry, and they put their own weighting on all of it. So it shouldn't make a difference, but they will see your college classes and those grades in there. And there's a random question that I'm going to answer for everybody. If something comes up and I have to leave early, will you lose your attendance for the meeting? No, you will not. But I would advise you to go back and pick up this video where you're leaving off right now. And kind of same goes that if you have Wi-Fi issues and you get booted out, that's okay. You can always watch the video later and get the information that way, but just definitely do that. Okay, so I'm going to go back to here. Hopefully that all makes sense and you're all highly motivated to do the studying and just kill the SAT. But all of this is a good other side of it, is that a lot of times we hear, I have test anxiety. And the number one way to decrease test anxiety is to build your confidence, build your familiarity, practice, practice, practice. Most of the time, when I dig deeper in a conversation with people that have test anxiety, it comes out they're just not really maybe putting that much time into the studying. And part of that is just maybe you haven't really had to yet. Are the college classes more important than our high school classes for grades? No. They will be weighted the same on your transcript, if that's, I think that might be what you're asking. But only your college grades, only your college classes are what transfer. I'm not sure exactly. Hopefully I answered that, but just chime in if I missed anything. Okay, so all of that, there's all this free stuff. I kind of went on a little rant about this the other day, and I'm going on again, that those of us that are old are jealous of these free resources. When I was in high school, there were not well, there wasn't the internet. There was, but it was very new. And there definitely were not a lot of free study resources out there. The way we studied for the SAT was sometimes our teachers gave us like some pretty intensive like practice tests. But even that was rare. The College Board was not really sharing those things at that time. We had some books that you could get from the library or buy that were sometimes really expensive. So, and then there was that you're only limited to what was in that book or what your teachers gave you, right? You have almost unlimited options for practicing for the SAT. So, I don't say that to overwhelm you, in that I just want you to know, like, you could put in 10 hours or you could put in 100 hours, but do something to prepare for it. So there's a few different ways of how you can prepare. College Board is the company that runs the SAT. They also run AP, so you might have already created a College Board account when you took an AP test or when you took the PSAT, but they're the ones that actually operate the test. So they have a bunch of study resources on their website. And then they have the app called Blue Book, which is going to be where you digitally take the actual SAT, and you can do practice in there too. So I'll show you that in just a second. All of this too is that they're partnered with Khan Academy, which when I asked the in-person group the other day, it seems like most people are aware of Khan Academy or have used it in your high school stuff. Your teachers have kind of pointed you to it. So that's where you can really dig into. I think I'm going to come back to some of these questions and keep rolling because I'm getting behind. So some of these I'm going to answer at the end, or if Mrs. Barr's here, I think I saw her pop out and in, so she might be having Wi-Fi issues. But I will come back to these questions at the end, or kind of before I move on to the next thing. So the Khan Academy side of it is where you can really dig in topic by topic to every single skill that you would need on the SAT. And that's where you could really spend hundreds of hours if you have it and want to do that. But I would say somewhere in the middle is kind of the sweet spot. So there are full-length practice tests in Blue Book, and then full-length non-linear, non-adaptive practice exams for download. And I'll show you where all these are. This stuff though is really nice because it actually you take these full-length practice tests, they're timed, so you get a good sense of like the timing of it, because that's one of the bigger issues that people have on the SAT, is feeling like they ran out of time. And so then it gives you an actual like estimate, or it gives you like what your score was for that particular practice test. And then I'll show you the SAT stuff. So we're going to pop out of here and go look at the stuff that I'll be sending you. So while I'm just going to quickly see if I can attach, I'm going to attach some things that I'm going to be sending you all of this stuff tomorrow. I'm going to send a big email with all of these things, but I kind of wanted to just show you. So there's the practice info that we're going to look at together right now. And oops, the practice guide, which I realized I just sent to the one person that asked me the question. So I'm going to resend that. So that's the practice guide and practice info. And they're kind of two different things. So really the practice info is just kind of telling you what those slides did about kind of like where you can find each piece. So that's less relevant than the practice guide. They actually give you kind of a step-by-step of how to start this process. So I'm going to just go kind of through this fairly quickly, but the first step is to create your College Board login, or find it if you already did. Okay, so I think this was the question that was asked was about the PSAT. So it's probably, can we find our PSAT scores in College Board somewhere? So you would need to get your College Board login and sign in. And I believe your PSAT scores would be there for you. So unfortunately, because I have Blue Book open, it's going to kind of force me to do this. But what you would need to do is just, there's a link here. This link in this PDF that I just sent you links you right to how to log in, and you should try a few things. Hopefully when you took the PSAT, your teachers or counselors or whoever ran the test got you set up with it, told you to use your personal email or to create a personal email and use that. Because if you use your school email, that's going to disappear before you would need to stop accessing the College Board. So you would want to like make a Gmail or use that, whatever personal email you want to use. So if you don't have that and need help with that, let me know. But basically the next thing, the actual steps for the prep is to download Blue Book. So this created kind of a whole slew of issues on Friday, because you should be able to do that on your Chromebook that you got from the Blue Water Middle College. And some people could, and some people couldn't. Some people, when they went to this link to download it, were given a message that said, your school already downloaded it, but then they couldn't access it on their Blue Book. So we're trying to troubleshoot this and figure this out. If you can access Blue Book, that's wonderful. You are welcome to come into the middle college and we can help you figure this out individually. Okay, good question. Okay, so how do we change our email if we did it with our high school email? We weren't told to use a personal email. Let me find out about that too. Because the College Board does encourage you not to make multiple accounts. So I will find out the answer to that, and I'll send that in the follow-up tomorrow. And I need to make myself a note of that so that I don't forget. So I'll remember that from the chat. Okay, so good question there. So Blue Book, if you can download it, great, you can get started in it. I'm going to show you how to do it, and then we're going to get some answers for you on that. Or it might be, we might set up, I kind of think probably the best way to handle it is we're going to set up some times where RISA IT people are going to be in the middle college office on campus, and you can bring your Chromebook in and get it working if it's not, okay? So stand by, wait for more information on that. I probably will not have an answer on that when I send the follow-up email tomorrow, but we're hoping to have it like in the next week or two. So if Blue Book works for you, what's going to happen is that you'll download this app and it'll show up like on your screen here. Sometimes on the Chromebooks down here along the bottom, there's a button that says apps, and that was another way people got into it. So again, you might have different ways of accessing it, but that's what it looks like. So when you click on that and it comes up, if your school has already given you a sign-in ticket, you can sign in using the information from that, but I don't think most of them are to that point yet. So for right now, you would want to sign in with your student College Board account. Okay, so again, that's where you would need that in order to access this right now. So hopefully this works. The other day, it really fought me because I have like multiple accounts. I have a student one, I have a teacher one, and then I have like my real one from when I was a student. Let's see if this works. Yes, okay. So this is what it looks like when you're in Blue Book. So this is my home screen. You can see if you had signed in with your paper ticket, you'd be able to see when your test is going to be. You can see I haven't taken any official tests. So those are like the official tests there. This is where your practice stuff is, the practice and prepare. So you can see active, like you can just click on full length practice or test preview. I would recommend doing the test preview. It's like just a question. It gives you like 10 practice questions just to kind of show you how it works. So I would do that before you do the full length practice, because you're going to want to have your accurate time on the practice when you do this. So as these directions recommend, I would really, if it were me, and what we recommend is to start with the test preview, do that, get familiar with it, and then do a full length practice. So you're going to have to block off the time to do that, because you really want to do it when you have like the 2 hours that you would have. And I think it's a little over that. We'll add that up in just a second. So you can see, basically you can click here on full length practice, select the test type, SAT, practice test. You can take any of the 4 full length practice tests. Let me see if I can do practice 1 and next. And it kind of gives you a little bit of some directions. They are timed, but you can pause them when you're doing the practice test. If you go to another device, you have to start over. And if you pause it and kind of exit out of it, when you go back in, it's going to give you like the time you have left. You can see scores. For the Blue Book app, am I able to use the MacBook Apple for it, or does it only work for Chrome? That's a great question too. I'm pretty sure you'd be able to use a MacBook for that. I think it goes on pretty much anything, because this is like a laptop. People have it on their Chromebooks. That's a good question. I would say give it a try at that website and then let me know if you have trouble. So the whole device lock thing, they don't lock it during practice, but on test days, you won't be able to open up anything else. Like, it'll be activated. So something to keep in mind. Basically, read through that and hit next. They're explaining the section. The time's already starting, right? So you had this started at like 32 minutes. I think each section is like 30 to 35 minutes, and there's 4 sections. So it's a little over 2 hours. So I'm wasting time right now by not reading this, but you'll be more focused when you do this. You read these directions, be calm, close it. And the reading and writing is all the stuff is basically you read the little section that it gives you and you do your answer. So I'll just show you, like, you would just click on it and that's it. And then you would hit next. If you're sure about that, you just move right on. If you're doing a question and you're like, oh gosh, I don't know, there's a couple that are okay. So there's ones that you can say like, I know it's not B and I know it's not A, but I'm not sure between those two. And you can click mark for review and you could pick an answer and come back to it, or you could not pick an answer. I would recommend picking one in case you run out of time, okay? And you can kind of keep moving. So it tells you how many questions you have. So for this particular section, you have 27 questions and you had 32 minutes. So you have a little over a minute per question, right? And so most of these won't take that long, but some may take a little longer. So you really do have to make sure you're managing your time well. And that's what these practice tests are really going to help you do. So yeah, I'll just kind of click a few more and show you. Let's say we mark this one for review. We have no idea. So you can kind of navigate around your questions by clicking this. So it brings them all up. So you can see, okay, I have 2 that I have marked for review. You can go to the review page and it'll let you click right to it and it brings you right back to that question. So it is handy. It's pretty easy to get around. You have this annotate thing where you can say like Mesopotamian. I'm gonna highlight that because I know that's like something that's important. When I come back and review this, I want to remember that, right? So there's some of that stuff. There's other tools here. There's shortcuts to, I would say, like, play around with these a little bit, but I don't know if you even need to do that if it's not your comfort zone. If the timer is freaking you out, you can hide it. It's just, that's a matter of preference, but I don't know. I would maybe hide it for a little bit and go back to it. I'm pretty sure it would give you kind of some warnings that when you get down to like 10 and 5 minutes. So once you get through the whole thing, and I'm not gonna have time, I don't want to click through all of those and waste your time, but that just kind of shows you what's what. So if I want to get out of here, say like you got interrupted, you can't finish it right now, you click save and exit, and I have this one that's in progress, I have this one that's in progress. Okay, so you would just go back in by hitting resume, and you can see it brings you right back. You have still that same amount of time left. Okay, now I want to show you, I did take one. Don't judge me, I just clicked C for everything. Ready? Why is it not showing my past ones? Darn it. Ready to practice? So I had I had one that I had already taken. Well, that's a bummer. Let me see if it pops up when I go over to. So basically, it would be there in my past tests, and it would look like, we'll get all the way down here. This is just kind of working you through how to do it all. So when you have a past test, you get a screen that looks like this. And let me zoom in on here. So it looks like this on your screen in Blue Book. So where I have past, that would be listed there. And you can click on it and you can get more detail about each question. So it shows you like everything you did, what the correct answer was, what your answer was that you chose, why each answer is right or wrong. So let's see if it'll let me into this and if that works. Be cool if this is over there in my saved College Board. Okay. They give you lots of good reminders about registering to vote. My SAT, crossing my fingers that this is here. So I can show you. Darn it. I don't know why it didn't save my stuff. Probably because I made up a fake one. So this is maybe the whole thing of like, when you have multiple accounts, it really confuses College Board big time. So ideally you find your actual account and then stuff will be saved here. So you'd be able to see your scores from your practice. Yeah, that's not it. Okay, so it would be there. You would see it when you connect yours. And then you'd be able to see in a lot more detail, again, each question. The other thing you can do, so this shows you a little bit about like each question, tells you the answer. The other thing, so if you can't get into Blue Book right now, or once you are in and you're looking at each question in detail, you can then click explore every question on Khan Academy and it pops you over there. So that's really handy because there you can then click on each question, and the ones that you didn't get right, you can go right to the lesson that Khan Academy has about that topic, that skill. So that's really helpful. For the question that I got about the Mac device, yes, it does run on Mac devices. So this was the link that's in that thing I'm going to send you, or I did send you, and I will email. You click here to look at the different devices you can use, and you would click that to actually download it. Okay, so that's the College Board Blue Book side of things. There's a couple other sites that are on this info, this guide. I really recommend you click on all these and kind of just explore. This page explains, just this is where you would access like a lot of information if you decide to retake it later on. But this one is really helpful, what to expect on test day. It'll kind of give you a video of like what it'll look like, the rules and procedures, brings you to the practice. This is the practice page that has more information. So it really walks you through everything. There's the practice test, links you to Khan Academy, which we'll look at next. Links you to Blue Book. Lots of information here. So I would really recommend looking through all of that as well as doing the official practice. So once you click to Khan Academy, it's going to bring you to kind of this main page. And I'm not going to get very deep into this because I feel at the in-person session, people were looking at me like, we've done this a million times. We know how to use Khan Academy. And I appreciate that. And I don't want to waste your time. What I am going to do is make a video where I do dig deeper into it. So if you haven't used Khan Academy before, I'm going to show you a little bit more about how to do more prep here. But this is the home page for the digital SAT. And I would recommend setting up an account. I am already logged into my account because they've all been giving me some wonky stuff and I didn't want to be delayed. Mrs. Barr's laughing at me. So this again gives you kind of some overall information about the SAT, how it works. Click on that, read through all that stuff. And this other thing, once you click this let's go, it's going to bring you to the main page where they have this free tutoring at Schoolhouse. It really wants you to do that, but you can scroll right past it and see all the stuff they have here. So they have the digital SAT math and digital SAT reading and writing in two different pages, basically. And you can click on either one and it's going to bring you to this thing that, like, I don't know if any of you have played Trivial Pursuit, but that's what this reminds me of. For each topic, each exercise, skill, you can start to fill in this board as attempted, familiar, proficient, mastered. You can do quizzes. You can start unit by unit. You can click, nope, that's not what I wanted. Course challenge. Okay, so you can go to the course challenge for all of the math and do a test that's going to give you a question on, I don't think it hits every topic, but it hits most, where you're going to get each skill, earn mastery points. So this is another thing, like you don't necessarily have to be in Blue Book. So if you're having issues getting into Blue Book for right now, this is the place to start. And so you can click your answers. It shows you the calculator. It lets you walk through this stuff. I'm not going to do this whole thing, but that's what I will kind of show you. So they're saying, give it another shot. So this is telling me right off the bat when it's wrong, which I don't know if I love that. Because then you're just going to keep doing that. But yeah, keeping it up. So you'd work through all of that. Course digital SAT. So here's where once you do some of these like practice tests, it's going to start to tell you what's going right and what's not, right? So it's going to bring you to these different units that they have listed out here back on this main page, wherever I was here. So here they have it all listed and they show you like the different topics or units in order of their difficulty. So what I would recommend is spending time in each of these and starting at the beginning. So if we go right to the reading and writing, the first one, they're going to talk about how it's all going to work, specifically about the SAT or the SAT overall, the reading and writing in particular, Blue Book, all of that stuff. And then you can start with the units to see, like, start kind of attempting these skills and doing the practice. So that's kind of the overview of it. I'm gonna, again, make a video where I get a little more detailed, and really do like some of these so you can start to see like how you would work through a particular lesson. Like this is on text structure and purpose. Actually, watch the video, read the thing, and do the practice questions, right? So, but I just wanted to kind of give you an overview. That's not what I wanted. So, like back to our home brings you kind of to the overview here. So hopefully that was not terribly boring. It made a little bit of sense there. Again, I'll make that video. I'm hoping to do that tomorrow and send the follow-up email. Does anyone have any questions? If you do, stick around. But this is our last slide. I just kind of wanted to point out that very, very soon, campus is going to look like this instead of being covered in snow. 13 weeks and we're going to be at the end of the semester. So this is a really important semester for you. And I don't say that to scare you. I say it to motivate you and like, you're going to kick butt. And then very soon it's going to be beautiful out, right? And you're going to be heading into summer break. But make plans now, request it off from work, put it on your calendar to attend the next success session, which is the first Friday in April, and then the following Tuesday, where we have the in-person on the Friday, the Zoom on the Tuesday night. And again, that's going to be from 5:30 to 7. And again, you'll have the option to watch the video if you can't attend either of those. That one, we're going to really refresh your memory on registration and planning your classes and the whole degree planning thing. And then there's some other stuff that we're going to get into of like how to really set up your 12th grade classes to make an easy 13th year for yourself. So if you have questions, stick around. I see some things in the chat. I'm going to just answer these real quick before we, how do we check our SE4 grades from last semester? That's a great question. I'm going to show you right now. Is the SAT required to continue with BWMC? It is. Yep, it's a requirement that you agreed to when you joined. Even if the profession you're doing doesn't require an additional degree, you still have to take the SAT. And it's part of our like federal requirements kind of. So I'm going to show people how to check SE4 grades if you haven't checked that. But if you don't have any questions, you are free to go. Thank you for coming. I'm gonna actually keep recording this. So if you do have questions, just stick around for a second and then we can have more one-on-one questions, or you can put it in the chat and Mrs. Barr can answer that for you. If you are going to put it in the chat, you do kind of have to ask it to everyone because she can't see the questions that you're asking, just me. Okay. You do not, the only follow-up you have to do other than showing up here today is just that reflection. If you were not here live, there will be different homework, but if you were here, you just have to do that reflection that was linked. And I'm going to drop that in the chat right now again so that it's down there. Great questions. There's that. Okay. So for those of you that, okay, I can't record or I can't minimize that while we're recording. Let me just show you to log into the service center. Okay, so I'm logged into my student account. Okay, so when you log into service center, hopefully you know how to do that. You would log in with your SE4 email, and you know what? Let's go back to the basics just in case. So when you type in portal.se4.edu, it'll bring you here. So this is the portal. You sign into this with your SE4 email and password. I hope you all know that, but if you don't be afraid to ask. It's just important that you know that soon. That your SE4 email is like, mine is T Weimer at it would be student.se4.edu, right? So it's usually your first initial last name. It's that one. Once you're in the portal, you can click Service Center, or you can go directly there like I just did. So yours will look a little different because you don't have like tax information and advising, which you can't see anyway, or employee, but you would go to grades and you would see fall 2023 semester here instead of winter 1998 from before you were born. And you can see in my final semester here at SE4, I struggled in the old version of anatomy and physiology. But you click there and you can see your grades. So that's how you see that. You can also see your transcript by just clicking unofficial transcript and then clicking on it, and it'll pop up as a download. So you'd be able to see that too. That shows you, I might as well show you the whole thing. So that shows you every single class and grade. You can see, like, if you have AP credit, this is how it will show up on there. You can see how your GPA changes through the years and your overall GPA. Right now, there's not going to be not a lot there because you just have your one semester. You can see kind of that. We'll kind of touch on this as you get further into it and build that a little bit more. So I am officially going to stop recording. And then